Have you ever wondered how a simple piece of wood could possess the power to part seas, unleash plagues, and reveal the invisible might of God? This is the story of Moses' mysterious staff, an apparently ordinary object that became an extraordinary instrument of divine will. From the scorching sands of the desert to the majestic crossing of the Red Sea, the staff not only altered the destiny of a nation, but also imparted eternal lessons to humanity. But what made this staff so special? Why was it chosen by God as a symbol of his power? In this narrative, you'll discover how a simple shepherd was called to lead a spiritual revolution and how God transformed the ordinary into the miraculous. Moses lived a simple life as a shepherd in the wilderness of Midian. Fleeing from his past in Egypt, he spent his days tending the sheep of his father-in-law. But one day, something extraordinary happened. While on Mount Horeb, Moses saw a burning bush that was not consumed by the flames. Curious, he approached, and then he heard the voice of God. "Moses, Moses, remove the sandals from your feet, for the place where you stand is holy ground." Exodus 3:1-5. God gave him an unexpected calling to free the people of Israel from slavery in Egypt. Filled with doubt, Moses asked, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh?" Exodus 3:11. God responded with a sign. "What is that in your hand?" "A staff," Moses replied. Then God told him to throw it on the ground, and it became a serpent. Exodus 4:2-4. This marked the transformation of an ordinary object into a symbol of divine power. The staff was no longer just a tool for herding sheep. It had become an instrument of faith and miracles. Moses would soon face his first test of obedience in Pharaoh's palace. Moses, accompanied by Aaron, arrived at Pharaoh's palace with a clear mission to demand freedom for the people of Israel. However, he encountered the disbelief and arrogance of Egypt's king. To demonstrate the power of Israel's God, Aaron, under Moses' instructions, threw the staff to the ground before Pharaoh and his advisors. In that moment, the staff turned into a living serpent, Exodus 7:8-10. Confident in the power of his own magicians, Pharaoh ordered them to replicate the miracle. And they did. The Egyptian magicians threw down their staffs, which also turned into serpents. But something unexpected happened. The serpent that had emerged from Aaron's staff devoured the other serpents. Exodus 7:11-12. This event delivered a clear message. The power of God could not be matched. It was a call to faith for Moses and an initial warning for Pharaoh. Although Pharaoh remained obstinate, Moses' staff was destined to play a pivotal role in the events to come. It became the instrument through which God unleashed his judgment on Egypt. When Pharaoh refused to free the Israelites, a series of devastating miracles began. God used Moses' staff as a symbol of his authority and justice. The first sign was clear. Under God's command, Moses raised the staff over the Nile River, and its waters turned to blood, killing the fish and leaving Egypt without drinkable water. Exodus 7:19-20. Pharaoh did not relent, and more plagues followed. With the staff, Moses caused frogs to cover the land of Egypt, Exodus 8:5-6. Later, the dust of the ground, touched by the staff, transformed into gnats that tormented humans and animals alike, Exodus 8:16-17. On another occasion, Moses raised the staff toward the sky, and a violent hailstorm destroyed crops and homes, Exodus 9:22-23. Each plague was not only a punishment, but also a demonstration that Egypt's gods held no power against the true God. The staff became an extension of divine power, making it clear that Pharaoh's resistance could not endure forever. Yet, despite the chaos, Pharaoh's heart remained hardened. As Pharaoh continued to refuse, God prepared an even more astonishing event. The staff would be key to the greatest miracle of all, the parting of the Red Sea. Finally, after the 10th plague, the death of the firstborn, Pharaoh allowed the Israelites to leave Egypt. However, he soon changed his mind and sent his army in pursuit. The Israelites, trapped between the Egyptian forces and the Red Sea, were filled with fear and cried out to Moses. But God gave Moses clear instructions. Raise your staff, stretch out your hand over the sea, and divide it so that the Israelites can cross on dry ground. Exodus 14:16. Moses obeyed, and by raising the staff, the sea parted into two walls of water, forming a dry path in the midst of the waters. Exodus 14:21-22. The Israelites crossed while the walls of water stood firm on either side. When the Egyptians tried to follow, Moses again stretched out the staff, and the waters returned to their place, drowning the enemy forces. Exodus 14:26-28. This event marked the climax of Israel's liberation. The staff, raised at the precise moment, symbolized God's direct intervention on behalf of his people, a reminder that his power is absolute against any obstacle. Though the Israelites were freed from Egypt, their journey through the wilderness was fraught with challenges. Moses' staff once again became an instrument of divine provision amid adversity. After crossing the Red Sea, the Israelites faced the harsh conditions of the desert. Thirsty and desperate, they began to grumble against Moses, questioning his leadership and even God's presence among them. In response to their cries, God instructed Moses, "Take the staff with which you struck the Nile and go. Strike the rock at Horeb, and water will come out of it for the people to drink." Exodus 17:5-6. Moses obeyed, and water flowed abundantly from the rock to quench the thirst of the Israelites. This miracle served as a reminder of God's constant care, even in the most challenging circumstances. Once again, Moses' staff became a symbol of divine provision, showing that despite the people's doubts, God would not abandon them. However, tensions grew, and Moses faced the heavy burden of leading a rebellious nation. As the challenges in the wilderness persisted, growing frustration led Moses to make a mistake that would define his destiny. The staff would once again take center stage, but this time in an act of disobedience with serious consequences. Over time, the complaints of the Israelites became incessant. On one occasion, when they once again cried out for water, God gave Moses clear instructions. "Speak to the rock before their eyes, and it will pour out its water." Numbers 28. However, frustrated by the people's continual rebellion, Moses disobeyed. Instead of speaking to the rock, he struck it twice with his staff. Numbers 20:10-11. Though water flowed to satisfy the people, God rebuked Moses for failing to fully trust his instructions. As a result, Moses faced a severe punishment. He would not enter the Promised Land. Numbers 20:12. This episode marked a significant turning point in the narrative. The staff, which had previously symbolized obedience and divine power, now bore witness to the consequences of acting outside of God's will. The incident with the rock revealed not only human frustration, but also the importance of precisely following divine guidance. The true meaning of the staff began to unfold. Moses' staff was not a magical object, but a tangible symbol of God's power and authority. From the first miracle before Pharaoh to the provision in the wilderness, the staff represented the obedience and faith necessary for God's power to manifest. The episode at the rock in Horeb demonstrated that true power did not reside in the staff itself, but in faithfully following God's commands. The staff was an extension of divine will, a lesson for Moses and the Israelites about God's holy and just nature. The story of Moses' staff does not end with past miracles. Its lessons remain relevant today, teaching us how God can use the ordinary to accomplish the extraordinary. The story of Moses' staff leaves a powerful message. God uses the common and ordinary to achieve the extraordinary. This simple object became a channel for miracles, but its true power lay in Moses' faith and obedience to God. Today, the staff reminds us that, like Moses, we are called to trust the Lord even in the face of impossible challenges. As Jesus said, "If you have faith as small as a mustard seed, nothing will be impossible for you." Matthew 17:20. Faith and obedience remain the pathway to experiencing the supernatural. Thank you for joining us on this fascinating journey into the mystery of Moses' staff. We hope this story has inspired your faith and reminded you of the power of obedience and trust in God. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment. Join our community of faith and transformation. Subscribe to the channel to stay updated on upcoming stories filled with learning and reflection. See you in the next video.